let's just dive into some questions from some of the listeners who jumped on the Instagram page and added some questions for this episode. The first one seems a good mate of yours, Glenn Swift.
Oh, yes.
Glenn said that would you come to Fremantle sometime to help me drink the bottle you gifted me for my 40th? Glenn's listening.
Well, I sure will, and I'm surprised that Glenn hasn't opened it yet. So maybe he's bluffing, but I'll be there in a heartbeat. He's a good bloke.
All right, Glenn, if you're listening, there's your answer, mate. And next one we've got is from Michelle. So Michelle, similar to me, she's kind of just blown away. I can't even imagine the effects of your body being in the water for that length of time. You know, I'm in the water for an hour. My fingers are pruning. I'm ready to get out and dry up. And to go in there for 31 hours, incredible. But Michelle's asked, you got salt, the friction, time spent in the water, you know, different sea creatures like the sharks and jellyfish, blue bottles we've spoken about, the darkness of the night, the deep, dark blue water. Where does your mind go? Massive congratulations.
Well, I think we touched on this, Hayden, in that if you're in that water and you think that you're going to conquer a swim, you shouldn't be there. If you don't conquer Mother Nature, if you're in the water and you're going to worry about things all the way through, you're going to have a very long swim and you're destined to not make it to the end. So you have to be at peace with your environment. You have to embrace everything that comes along, and you have to be prepared and mitigate against any risk where you can, and just be prepared for whatever's there. But you have to be relaxed in your mind. And I think even looking out at night now in the ocean, that would be so scary to be on your own out there. But when you're there and you've done the training and you're in the headspace, there's no better place to be. Even at midnight in the deep blue dark ocean with one kayaker, it was an incredibly humbling experience, but comfortable.
Like the adrenaline that comes with the swim, and all the experiences we've talked about must just give you that extra push. You know, like you're looking out the window there saying, oh, there's the beach. You know, wouldn't it be a scary feeling to be out there on my own in the water? But when you're actually out there and your heart's pumping, you got the adrenaline and you're visualizing everything in the deep blue water and all the sensory experiences you're having, you must just kind of forget about all those rational thoughts or the fears you've had and just start to enjoy the moment.
That's exactly right. And I think you're much more rational when you're out there on your own. Unless you let those doubts work on your brain. But rationally, when you're out there, it's a different perspective. Looking back, like I couldn't see the shoreline for a very long time, but it was a good place to be. It wasn't threatening. I had my head in the right place. I trusted in the shark shield, certainly trusted in my crew. And plenty of times I swam ahead of the kayak just to have a bit of a swim out. So really deep water, away from the pilot boat, on your own, essentially, and in comfort. And that's an important part. Your head has to be in the right place.
All right, the last question, Joselle, hopefully I haven't pronounced your name incorrectly. Here's a silly, maybe not so silly question. After all the time at sea, what food and or beverage aside from water and electrolytes were you craving? And another one, did you see any sharks and how did you put sharky thoughts out of your mind? So I guess it's like a two-pronged question. Aside from the cordial and the water, did you have any specific cravings at sea?
I didn't. I certainly didn't crave for beef cheek ragu. I hadn't for a while. It's salty, but I craved at the end for something cold or bubbly down my throat. So that was I didn't care if it was soda water or champagne, both did the same job, particularly mixed with a Calippo, the frozen ice block coming. No, I didn't. I certainly didn't crave for a beer, but it didn't stop me having quite a few afterwards. I didn't have any cravings at all because I don't see that as being something that you're delaying. It's just you're having fuel as you're going along, and it wasn't even a factor that I wasn't having things that I didn't absolutely like. So no cravings at all. if you get hungry, you're in trouble, because you shouldn't get hungry. Your levels and your nutrition should be very steady on the way through. And that's reflected by the stroke rate, as we mentioned. So my stroke rate for 31 hours was 64 strokes a minute. And that's an excellent sign that I was doing everything right. Now, I hadn't mentioned this before, but I did have one of the kayakers, Dan, and it was nighttime. I can't remember. It was early night or whatever. I sort of lost that perspective. Dan was kayaking just beside me and within the reach of the shark shield. And I sort of drifted off a little bit. And I just thought, surely it's time for a feed. So I said, how long before a feed, Dan? He said, 5 minutes. So I kept swimming for more than 5 minutes, and I put my head up again. Come on, Dan. He said, 5 more minutes. I thought, this is getting ridiculous. It shouldn't be playing games. So I swam off for another 10 or 15 minutes. And I said to him later, like days later, I said, Dan, you've doubled up there for some reason. I need a feed when I need a feed. I don't need to put it off for 15 minutes. He said, well, there was a shark right beside you. I could see the fin through the nighttime. It was making the bioluminescence light up. So I thought it best not to stop right next to the shark fin. I said, well, that's good thinking, Dan. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that was the only experience. So I didn't see any, he did, but it wasn't to sensationalize it. It's just a funny story. And that's the only shark we actually saw, or he saw, in the whole trip.